You don't need a guardian angel. You've got your pals at the Boob Tube Boys. You've got Spencer, Brian, and Van. That's us. I'm Spencer. This is Brian.
Hey.
This is Van.
God.
We're kind of like the angelic forces of the podcast industry, I guess, in a way.
People have described us as that.
Yeah. Well, I don't really have any way to tie that in, but I think we are.
Yeah, I think we oversee a world of podcasts that we record.
And occasionally one of us will manifest wings, like in physical form.
Hauser?
I wish.
He's just here stumbling around drunk.
No, it's a pretty loose tie-in because we don't often discuss angels in our personal lives, the three of us, do we? We don't talk a lot about angels.
If I am, I'm talking about Angels in the Outfield, the children's movie from 1993 where Christopher Lloyd dies and goes to heaven and then plays baseball. I don't remember that movie.
Yeah, I think he saves a little boy from his dad abandoning him, but then that doesn't happen. The dad still abandons him.
And Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the boy, I think.
Is it really?
I believe that's correct.
Huh.
That is also a movie where I famously, in my own head, felt some form of class guilt in which there were kids eating Jell-O and getting really excited about it.
And you were like, Jell-O sucks.
I thought, I don't really like Jell-O that much. And then after the movie, that's all I could think about was how much of a little asshole I was for looking Jell-O in the mouth like it was nothing when these kids were really excited about Jell-O.
Well, that's good. I mean, I'm glad it was able to do that for you and drive that message home.
That's all I remembered about it, though, so I'm not sure that the movie was good.
So this is the first time you're listening to Boob Tube Boys. We always up top cover a little bit about the overview of the show. And in this case, we ramble a little bit about it because we don't necessarily know how to get right into it. We're doing Touched by an Angel because Van made me do Touched by an Angel in our little hot potato series that we do where we pick shows out for each other. I certainly would not have picked the show. None of us would watch it on our own sincerely, but I wouldn't have picked it at all. It's about 42 minutes without commercials, and it is something else. So we got that on our plate the next 2 weeks. I wanted to touch on what the show was because I know we're going to do a lot of rambling in these. Do you guys actually, what do you know personally about, if someone were to be like, what's an angel? What would you say?
I'm glad we're doing this up top. I was under the impression that an angel was kind of a separate thing, like a being heralded by God in some sort of way, not necessarily a ghost.
You know, I haven't really thought about it because obviously I'm not religious.
Exactly.
None of us are.
I don't
really
have the biblical background to even know what an angel is in the Bible. I just knew that they were like God's messengers, right? Like he sent them down to earth,
Right.
just like in the show, except, I don't know, weren't they kind of scary? Wasn't Gabriel kind of mean?
Well, there's the whole like biblically accurate angel, and it's got a lot of eyes, and there's like halos
They're not
everywhere.
nice
Tentacles
looking
and shit.
things.
And
Yeah.
big wielding a big like axe.
I thought they were supposed to be a little bit intimidating too, on top of it. But the interesting thing about this show actually is that, let me get my little creator notes here because these aren't people we would have heard of. John Macias is the creator of the show, but he really only did the pilot episode. And then the woman they had earmarked to be the executive producer, Martha Williamson, did not like the pilot because she thought it was a little too dark, which tells me that they were onto something in that pilot. But she felt like, as a Christian, this is not the representation of angels I want to see in media. So she had a meeting with CBS and said, we need to change the whole thing, axe the pilot, get rid of everybody but Tess and Monica, and then I will help rewrite the script and we'll make it something more lighthearted where the angels are more what I want to see. It doesn't really go into detail what the pilot originally was, but it was a darker thing, and the creator was apparently going through a rough time because he had multiple children born disabled. And his faith was shaken, I guess. But I still think that would have been a far better product overall. Instead, we got this.
Yeah, angels to me, I don't really know what to say other than, can people be angels?
I
Like when you
don't
die
know.
and you go to heaven?
No.
No?
No,
That's what
I
I'm
think
saying.
It's a subset of,
Okay.
I think of them as like specific special agents of God.
So they've been handpicked. God said, I've got my group here, my posse.
Perhaps they've worked their way up the ladder,
Mhm.
like it's a separate class, like if you're playing D&D or something.
And wasn't Jesus, not Jesus, he was not an angel. Wasn't the devil an angel? Wasn't
He's
Satan
a fallen angel.
a fallen
Yeah.
angel?
Because he didn't believe in the rules or something. And he was riding his motorcycle around, being loud. And God's like, you got to go manage hell.
And he started his own reverse heaven, which is,
That's pretty
you gotta
cool.
say, he's a bit of a go-getter.
Pretty metal.
Yeah. A little bit of a burn downer also.
So the concept actually was created by CBS at the time, thinking because this is our favorite time period, the mid-90s, 1994, when we were coming into our double-digit years, I guess you would say.
What could happen? Anything.
Yeah, and the world was a very different place, as we'll discuss in our second episode next week. But apparently there was a sentiment at the time that belief in angels was getting more widespread.
Really?
And CBS like, we got to tap into that market. People are talking about angels everywhere.
It's like how now in the year 2024, as we record this, there's a lot of AI themes in shows.
That's a great
or
parallel.
plot lines. Apparently in the early 90s, they were getting around to angels.
Did you guys happen to look up the success or not success of the show?
Well, I mean, it had 10 seasons,
9
so it had to be
seasons, yeah.
somewhat successful.
I didn't, but I figure it had to because of its run and because of the stars they were able to kind of rein in there as guests.
Well, so it was 9 seasons, 211 episodes. As I said, it's, again, our old friend CBS, who we have visited time and time again. It's from 1994 to 2003. There was a brief spinoff for like a 3-season show in 96 or something when it started to take off.
Promised Land?
Yes, and that's really all that I have to say about that part of it. But the peak Touched by an Angel is ironically right in the wheelhouse of the 2 episodes you picked for us, Van. So started in season 3 and went all the way through season 6 was when it was just on fire.
These seasons are The Simpsons 2
Yep.
through 5 or 2 through 6 or whatever.
Yeah, you couldn't have picked it better. This is like when everything they released was gold, apparently.
And this is so counter to Simpsons or Seinfeld or
For a lot of
anything else.
reasons.
Yeah, or ER or any other show that was huge in the 90s.
So it was one of CBS's highest rated shows from season 3 to 6. At that time, it was the 9th most watched network series, period.
Good Lord,
Which
unintended.
consisted of over 17 million viewers,
Huh.
a 15% market share in the Nielsen rating things. So yeah, it was a big deal for those few years.
That is way up there in haloed territory. You might say, I meant to say hallowed, but I didn't.
It fits right in there with what you were talking about recently, Brian, where it's like the shows like The Office, you mentioned this in The Office thing, that we think of as mainstream are like they're popular, but not in the way that a show like Touched by an Angel is popular.
They're popular in a way that like a lot of people know them, but Touched by an Angel is popular in the way that you could yell Touched by an Angel in a crowded room and 20 people would be like, let's talk about it. In the mid-90s, at least.
Sure. It also, I guess, it was popular at the time. Like, do you guys remember the Chicken Soup for the Soul books, which just were so popular back then?
Right in that
These
alley.
re-aired on the Hallmark Channel, and I feel like that tells you what you need to know about the intended tone.
As you can probably guess, while audiences did like it, critics didn't at all. It didn't rate well with critics.
They were mean about it.
Pretty much all said the same stuff. Like, this is really no substance at all. The contrived elements of the forced religion are overly saccharine. There's not really any meaning. God doesn't do anything. He just seems concerned enough to be like, here's some angels. They'll fix it, but I can't really get involved in God.
Here, talk to my shift manager.
Well, let me ask about that then, because periodically throughout our 2 episodes and the extra episodes I might have watched, you see the angels impact things. Like they'll see a problem and they'll go to fix it.
Maybe.
Kind of, maybe, sometimes, not always.
Stunning what they might allow.
Can they do things? Can they alter? Because I thought it's all God's plan. So what are they doing fucking around with stuff?
It sounds to me from the couple that I saw for what we're doing, it seems to me like they have some instructions and then some leeway. So I think there's certain things that they have to let play out and other things they can help with is what I gathered. So I think they're kind of choosing.
To that point, on this episode, there's a spot where our main angel, Monica, goes to unlock a safe and she can't. Now, she obviously doesn't have the combo for it, but I'm thinking her angelic powers could typically allow her to open it, but she can't because they're like, nope, God wants this.
I can answer this. Wings don't have thumbs.
Shit.
Another thing about angels is I think in the episode next week, we have revealed that they are very strong physically. We see a thing that Andrew, the angel of death, who we'll talk about shortly, does that seems like they must be supernaturally strong. So I would have thought Monica could just rip that safe right open in that scene. They're surprisingly limited in some ways and then all seeing, all knowing in other ways.
Yeah, let me say as well, within the first scene of watching this show, like I had never seen a moment of it. And I felt tonally something was wrong.
It is.
I was watching something wrong.
I believe this is Martha Williamson's fault because
thanks, Martha.
She's the one who commandeered this and said, we need to rework the entire thing and make the angels more the way I think Christians want them. I think she's the reason why the show is disjointed and jarring and just stupid.
This doesn't even read like a middle-of-the-road person would like it at this point in time to me. It feels so
It's
saccharine.
pretty extreme. Mm-hmm.
Not only that, like its comic sensibility and its moral sensibility are very... There's nothing to say. They're just wasted scenes.
Nothing. They don't even really get into any like actual religion.
No.
They just be like, God wants this. It's very supportive. Like God is there with you, but nothing is really stated. There's no theology. There's no real elements of God. It's just, it'll be okay because God wants it to be okay.
I mean, none of us, we've already covered this at length in multiple episodes, but none of us are religious in nature. But I'll tell you what, it's an interesting topic. And so is faith, and so is devotion, and so is like, what a person needs to do to get by every day. All of these things. And the show has no interest in those things.
Not a bit.
What does it have interest in, though? Nutso stuff. So at least there's that.
It feels like what this show wants to do is to show you a problem that's obviously wrong or a problem, and then bash you over the head saying it's a problem. Like they'll be like, murder is bad. That's the topic. So they show someone murder, and then the angels get a concerned, furrowed look on their face, and then the entire episode is nothing happening. But then at the end, someone goes, murder's kind of bad, right?
Yeah, and that's a frustrating...
Walk with me.
If someone likes this sort of obvious entertainment a lot, like in an earnest way, I think a lot of times that's when we'll see them be like, how can you not like this? Look, the strong message that it's sending. And it's like, well, if you have a I like murder message, like you're fucked up, man. Like no one thinks that. No one's like, I'm pro murder. I'm pro, magicians killing their brothers or whatever. I don't know. Like people aren't what the show purports them to be, but I'm getting far afield. Really, the show just doesn't want to have to do anything hard.
Most of these that we've covered don't. They're looking to appeal to that large part of the audience that isn't trying to get a lot of thinking going on in their TV viewing. You don't have to do a lot of thinking when you watch this.
This show, I think, is for people who are the kind of people who sit down and, like, if they're watching a show, they want to predict how it ends. They don't care about the journey. They just want to know what's the end result because they don't want to think about it.
Do you think also it's possible, there might be some people this would really offend. Do you think maybe there are some people who like to think of themselves as Christians but really don't act like it in any way that might like this show and feel better about themselves for liking it?
The entirety of the Republican Party?
Sure, yeah.
This show must have been comfort food for someone. I mean, that must be what this acts as.
Very much so.
But it's very silly.
I don't see the appeal of it if that's not what it is. It
Yeah.
has to be like the world's an increasingly scary and frightening place, but there's always wholesome entertainment to be found in shows like this. And I believe angels are real, as I was just telling my coworker the other day. I'm assuming this is all going on in someone's head in 1994.
And this is like, perhaps this also, the audience was so large because it extended to people who maybe you're a Christian and you're like, well, I really prefer to watch faith-based stuff, and I don't really think this is great, but it's in my genre. But none of us are really that way with any genre. Like, well, where we'll just watch anything.
Just because it's there.
I think that's also hard to grasp. Like, why would you just watch the worst version of a thing? Because there are, throughout history, countless works of art about faith that interrogate it and celebrate it and are really interesting.
I'll tell you what I don't like, and it fits the lore. I don't like how sometimes we'll see scenes where something's happening and Touched by an Angel with earthly characters, and then boom, the angels are just there watching.
in basking in
that
light.
happens
like that.
a bunch of times in the one next week, especially.
Yeah. Somebody's sitting there watching Gary Cole get a boner.
Yeah, and let me tell you right now, he does.
Not the last time that will be mentioned. I even have a specific in my notes point where I talk about Gary Cole's boner. So we're going to do a lot of that.
And they must have paid these guest actors a lot because the main cast really doesn't do much.
The main cast is awful, but every guest actor is amazing.
Actually, that's perfect. I should get into that now. There's only a few characters that were in most of the episodes. We've talked about a couple of them. Tess, who is the supervisor sort of person. Like, this is essentially a caseworker department of angels that we deal with, and they get their cases, which are usually people who are having a tough time in life. It's just they're disgruntled, they're discouraged, maybe they're losing their faith, they're at some sort of crossroads, and the angels get the case and they're supposed to go in and make it better.
And they work them undercover at first.
Yeah, and then eventually they're like,
there's
hey,
a big reveal, and no one ever minds.
No, they're like, oh, I figured.
No one's that shocked either.
Yeah.
They're just like, this makes sense. Sure.
Oh, yeah, spectral being. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tess is the supervisor of this, and that is Della Reese, who also sings the theme song that we played in, which I didn't even know who Della Reese was. But as soon as I heard the credits, I had just seen a scene with her in it, and I was like, that's her.
That's
Della
her,
Reese
yeah.
singing that. And I think she has a lovely soul voice. Does a great job in that.
What do you
intro.
think about her character and how she's mean as fuck?
I was hearing you guys talk about that, what a bitch she was. I actually didn't mind her. I don't think that they made it work where she's what she's supposed to be, but I didn't think she was too mean-spirited, honestly.
I couldn't stand her. She said 0 positive things to anyone.
She's
and just
supposed to be like the big, like tough love.
Now, what I will say is, as the manager, she did feel like when you're getting your first or second job, because she's dealing with a lot of younger angels, right?
Sure.
And you have this manager who's just been there forever and is 25 years older than you and hates the world. She did feel like that.
Then, of course, we have Roma Downey as Monica. Roma Downey is apparently Irish. I had no idea. I couldn't tell what her accent was in this. But I don't know anything about Roma Downey outside of this show.
I know she was like a model first and then got into this. And for whatever reason...
She didn't have a long background in acting before this show?
Certainly not. And didn't have a long one after this show either.
Huh.
No, she's real bad at it. She also has stupid bangs. Like haircut bangs, they're just dumb. They're very 90s.
The 90s, yeah.
Just in the first one, right? Isn't it lesser in the second one?
She had advanced in haircuts by the second one. But this episode's from 1997 and feels like it's from 1991.
Yeah.
And the haircuts, the clothing.
It's one of those things. The show started in 1994, but we're not covering until season 3. And I would have thought this was 94.
The theme song, too, sounds old.
They definitely are not trendy with any of this stuff. And thirdly, of the main cast, we have John Dye, who plays Andrew, the Angel of Death.
Irony.
I don't know why. Okay, the Angel of Death sounds like a bad character.
But he's a good character.
He's a good Angel of Death. I thought Angel of Death was a bad thing. I thought it was like the Grim Reaper or something.
Or Carr.
He's the one who takes your hand as you cross the mortal plane.
Is that what that is?
That's kind of what he is, because I'll go ahead and mention this. And one of my favorite things that I found when I was deciding to do Touched by an Angel is there's a clip on YouTube of an episode, and it's the 100th episode of the show, and it is fucking glorious. I've made Brian watch it. So what happens is there's this little boy, and he has, I think, leukemia or something. It's something bad, and he's dying. So he writes up a list of things he wants to do before he dies.
You'll never guess how that ends. You won't. I'm serious.
Now, what happened is when he was diagnosed, his mother basically went into a deep depression, and she was at the time writing a song for him, and she's noted country superstar Winona Judd, that's right. Is that, what's her name, sister?
Could be.
Ashley? I don't know. Anyway, and she doesn't write the song anymore. She's mad or upset that her kid's dying. So anyway, at some point, they have to convince her to finish the song. So she does. This kid is on the brink of death, and they wheel him out because it's a big celebration. And there's Winona Judd, and she's out there
and I mean
the song.
Off his hospice bed, essentially, outside.
Yeah, on the porch. There's Winona Judd. She sings the song. She's finished it. It's great. He's done all the things on his list. So John Dye, the Angel of Death there, looks at the little boy and says, it's time. And he reaches out and he paws at his face. And when he touches him, the little boy just fucking dies. Straight up, goddamn dies right there on the porch. And the notebook with his list of things falls out of his hand. And again, this entire time, there's a group of people singing a gospel song on the lawn with this dead kid right on the porch. Anyway, Roma Downey picks up the book. She opens it to his list of things to do before he dies. And she looks at the last item on the list. And it says, go to heaven to meet God. And she fucking crosses it off for him.
End of episode.
And that's it. So anyway, moral of the story of this whole thing, John Dye, the Angel of Death, I think he pokes at him. They die, and then that's that. So I think it's his job to finalize the death if that were to occur. The problem is the CBS executives were like, listen, Brandon Tartikoff, but of CBS, we need an Angel of Death. Get me the puffiest-faced man you can find. And that's what they did.
Yeah, so apparently that character had been a couple other guys already when they brought on John Dye. So there's something about him when he took on the role. They were like, this is our permanent Angel of Death.
We got to keep this
on.
guy. He's such a dork. I don't like any of these angels.
No.
Tragically, that actor has been dead for like 10 years and he was only 47 at the time too.
Man.
So yeah, he is.
Did he touch himself in the face on accident?
He might have, but you might be onto something with the puffiness because he did have apparently congestive heart failure at 47. So he needed his own Angel of Death at this point already, sadly. But I was not sure what his character was supposed to be until you told me that. I just know he's helping the main ones out in these episodes, sort of. And in some cases, I think he does more than they do, actually.
And he's also very learned. He's able to do any number of professions.
There's some stuff in the second episode where he is wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah.
So do they, I almost said zombies, do the angels, heaven zombies?
Sky zombies, yeah.
So do they come down and inhabit people?
I think they made the body for the angel.
You think that's what it is? Because
I think so.
John Die in this episode plays Andy, who's it can't be a new person because he plays the agent for a magician.
He mentions that he's only been doing it for 3 weeks, though.
Oh, okay.
So I think he materialized and then got a job as this guy's agent.
Okay, so they don't like steal people for a while.
I think they just infiltrate that, which is really creepy. They infiltrate their target's life and take it over.
Like a DEA agent.
Exactly.
A lot of
It's like
subterfuge.
the Americans where Matthew Rees, or Rez, however you say his name, where, they have to go undercover and like sidle up to a person and infiltrate their life. You have to either date them or just be their close friend and confidant,
an angel.
so that they will tell you
Betray
everything
their
about their life.
trust.
Exactly. The angels have to do that. They know all the details about these people and they have to act like they don't. It's really weird. Kind of strange. But that's, I think, what's going on here is they give them, they're like, okay, hey, you're in heaven. You're an angel. We need you for a mission on Earth. So obviously you don't have a body because you're not a human. You're going to get this
The opening scene of this episode kind of actually does cover that.
Yeah. So I think that they just, I don't know how they decide. They're just like, this is your body, but I don't think it was ever anyone else. So that's what I took from it anyway. There's a couple other angels, but the cast is very small. We don't see them. They introduce another angel in season 4 named Raphael. It's an actor named Alexis Cruz.
Does he have size, or do you think he's rude?
And what's he like to eat the best?
He is actually a young-looking angel that they use to connect with teenagers when they have episodes like that.
Skateboard angel.
Yeah, backwards cap.
Angel that plays Pogs.
And then in season 7, they have a clumsy, innocent angel named Gloria, who was played by Valerie Bertinelli. That's the main cast, but boy, did they ever get guest stars in the show. We've got a couple in the next one that are pretty surprising. No one big in this episode, unless you want to say Corbin Bernsen is a A-lister.
I'll say
Or
it.
the one who Brian's going to say, too.
Well, I was mainly going to talk about Corbin Bernsen. This is right after Major League, right?
It has to be.
It
pretty
would have
close.
been,
Like
yeah.
5 years after,
Close
maybe?
to.
How does this happen this quickly? Then again, I guess this is a really popular show.
Yeah. And I do think they must have had a huge budget for giving to guest stars.
Corbin Bernsen, blah, blah, blah. The guys we have next week, whatever. But yeah, Van said it, or he alluded to it. We're bearing the lead. Fucking my man David Leisure is in this episode.
Who does an outstanding
He's
job.
great.
David Leisure rules.
How
did.
did you take this long to get to that, though? You're like, I'm going to talk about Corbin Bernsen for a while. Well, David fucking Leisure's coming up. I figured you would have led with that.
I'm a little bit of a pleasure delayer.
Oh, okay. You like the tantric aspect of
tantric
David Leisure.
podcasting. And getting to David Leisure is that we haven't seen this man since Alf. We've talked about him.
That's like 150 Boob Tube Boys episodes or whatever since then.
But I want to see him more, and he is delightful in this. He's a scumbag in Alf, like a kind of a low-rent mobster almost. And here we see him as a city councilman who is like just, down-to-earth guy you'd want to hang out with.
Best character in the whole episode. Just fantastic. And so believable. His lines are so good.
I think David Leisure's a pretty good actor.
I think so too. After this, I was like, that is exactly the way a councilman should be acting.
I would vote for him.
It's incredible. I do have a short list. And this is not by any means like the biggest ones, but I just
What are
wanted
you guys
to...
going to do with your Sundays? Because, when work week starts on Monday, it's back to the old rat race. I'm going to engage in some David Leisure. That was worth interrupting.
I would say so.
Good. It was good.
We only have like a handful of these notable guest stars. So I'm just going to say a few that jumped out to me. Maya Angelou, Muhammad Ali, Kirk Douglas, Margot Kidder, Toby Keith, and Sally Ride are some random people they got in here.
So they got Kirk Douglas when he must have been 400, and then Toby Keith when he was probably 14.
Right before he took off. And then, of course, next week's episode, I'll save that for when we cover that, but we got a couple of big ones in that one.
This is probably the era Toby Keith was talking about in that song where he says he ain't as good as he once was. This is when he once was.
This is when he's at the bar getting laid and fighting people or whatever it is.
Over a game of pool or something.
Whatever they think is important.
That's all I've got for our overview. I am ready, if you guys are, to get into the actual first episode we're covering, which is Angel of Death?
I really am, because we've complained about the show already, but I am excited to talk about
Absolutely.
Oh, it's nuts.
There's some great moments and more than we'll even be able to fit into an episode next week. It'll be a challenge enough this week, but yeah, next week's is just really insane.
Let's just say next week's episode is going to be a larger file to download.
That'll make more sense when they hear us talking about that next week. So this, again, Season 3, Episode 17, Angel of Death, which aired February 9th, 1997. This is an IMDb synopsis. They're very poorly worded, but I wrote it down just to be accurate. I'm going to read it exactly as they wrote it, which is Tess works with new angel Celeste. Does she ever? A magician promotes himself as the Angel of Death, but has a terrible secret from his past that haunts him. Celeste works as the magician's assistant, is the third sentence there of that synopsis, which she doesn't really.
I mean, briefly. That's the thing, though. When I was picking the episodes for you, this one came out, and I think there was another description I read somewhere else that said that Monica's not here. So it's a special new angel. So I was kind of disappointed. It was like, well, we're going to get this show without one of the main characters in one of the episodes. That's not the case. She's just straight up in this.
Immediately, almost. Too.
Why is this a swerve? Why is everybody writes that doing that?
When you were scrolling through IMDb or whatever, you saw the word magician and you picked that one.
Yes, that is accurate. But I looked at some others.
Yeah, I mean, you might have also done that. There's one episode apparently about bowling.
I'd watch that. I'll tell you another episode that I watched last night. It was about this lady.
How many have you seen now?
4 or 5. It's a couple.
Have you gotten any of the angels besides the 3 that I mentioned?
No.
Did you get? Okay.
No.
What about Angel from Dexter?
No, not there. Neither's Booth.
And no big guest stars in the ones you saw?
I think she was an actress, but I don't remember her name. But anyway, there's this old lady on this subdivision or whatever. And it turns out that a house that had been foreclosed on was bought by the city. And now they're moving in a project. And that project is a bunch of special education people with Down syndrome. Except this old lady fucking hates it. She says shit like, I don't want their kind here.
Oh,
it is
boy.
nasty. It's such a good episode, though, because she gets her comeuppance, right? She has to learn her lesson. You know what happens? She has a fucking stroke. And then we see this woman, this actress, oh boy, with the slurred mouth.
Oh, no.
Trying to, and it's horrendous. It is
Ugh.
utterly horrendous.
When did that, culturally, did we put that and into that for actors?
I think starting in the mid-2000s,
Yeah.
I think is when that
It took
went.
a while.
But this thing, man, it's good.
I wonder if Andrew is the angel of death can ever, if a character's like that, if they're awful, just be like, all right, it's time. And then just touch them and they're dead. He can just kill people because he doesn't like them.
Man, I hope Andrew doesn't like trip and bump into the wrong person.
Right off the bat in this one, we do meet our new angel, who is not in hardly any of the episode, but does start the episode off with Tess. This is Celeste. And she is trying out human form for the first time. As kind of we were discussing, she came from heaven and they gave her this body. Tess lectures her, says, now that you're human, some things I need you to know. Stay away from junk food. Stay away from coffee. She says one of the other angels in particular, Miss Wings, she calls her. Is that Monica?
She means Monica, but
Okay.
I don't know what she's saying.
Is she from the Wings family?
Or maybe she's from that show Wings.
When I was watching this scene, of course, being the first scene I watched of the show, I thought it was just some other angel, but later on I was thinking, okay, she's probably talking about Monica.
Yeah, and Monica has a coffee obsession. That's a recurring thing.
Okay, I didn't catch that, but I just noticed later that what she calls Monica Miss Wings, and she refers to her as Miss Wings in this. So I was like, oh, she was talking about Monica Celeste. But anyway.
And by the way, of course, Monica's quirk is she likes coffee.
Oh, what a terrible, evil thing.
So
Yeah.
extreme.
That's so quirky and offbeat.
That she mentions to Celeste, and at this point she doesn't say Monica by name, but she says one of the angels is having a problem and can't stay away from double mocha latte. Tess introduces her little barking dog, who plays a big role in this. Looks like Toto from The Wizard of Oz. To Celeste, who says, I wish I had a tail to wag when I was happy, like now. And Tess just kind of looks at her like she's really weird. Tells her to calm down. Says, you are going to be working with people now, Celeste. You need to learn how to keep your composure and not be weird around people. This news is upsetting to Celeste, who I guess thought she was just going to be a human for something else, because she's like, people? I'm not ready to work with people. And Tess admonishes her and says, look, you got to do this. You can run, but you can't hide. Kind of like our case this week or whatever on this episode of Touched by an Angel.
She just flat out says it in the middle of the show.
It's very transparent that this is her segue to being like, you can't put this off forever, like our guy, Eric Weiss.
Anytime we get a scene with Tess and Celeste or anything involving that plot line, we get what we refer to on this podcast as blink blonk music, which is whimsical soundtracking to let you know you're supposed to not take this seriously, you're supposed to laugh.
And they do use Celeste in this episode as a very weak tie-in to Eric the Magician, their case person in this episode, because how she chooses to handle being assigned the case is to run from it. And they say that's what Eric has been doing his whole life. So it's a really, really weak thing there that eventually at the end, Celeste says she uses that experience to take the case and to connect with Eric.
From all her experience in a refrigerator.
And Celeste, by the way, is played by Hudson Leik, who most notably was Callisto on Xena, Warrior Princess, a character I absolutely loved.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot to look up Celeste since she was like in 5 minutes of this one. So whoosh, we're teleported to the hot new escape artist celebrity of the day, right in the middle of his pulse-pounding, death-defying act. It's accomplished musician Eric. Okay, so it's spelled Weiss, but they say it Wise. Do you guys have a thought on that? Is it Weiss? Is it Wise?
Corbin Bernsen.
Okay.
So the actual, and they do mention this later in the episode, the actual Houdini, Harry Houdini's real name was Eric Weiss, like the German surname, W-E-I-S-Z.
So you say it Wise, but it looks like Weiss. Okay. In any case, we won't need to say his last name. As we learn later, his name's not even Eric anyway. This is a complicated guy.
This is a show that plays fast and loose with names. The angels get renamed to different things where you get a new character each week, but it's not even a problem because the plots are so simple.
And it's also a little bit convoluted that we have an actual angel of death in Andrew and a magician who goes by the angel of death in Eric.
Eric's cooler. I'm just going to get that out.
Easily. Andrew, I think that might be why he's getting involved here, is to kind of copyright his thing. So he's like, I'll get into being an agent, you know, and get a lawyer, get close to Corbin Bernsen, steal his nickname.
That way, when he's no longer the angel of death, he has like a money. Like when he retires, he has the funds to live out the rest of his angel life.
And Andrew can fund like hologram tours of Corbin Bernsen called the Angel of Death because he owns the IP.
You're making me think that he would have been hoping this entire episode for Eric to die.
Was he not?
So
what does he do that proves otherwise?
So we can be like, oh good, now I'm officially the only angel of death in the room.
Phew.
There are several times when Eric almost dies, everyone's like, man, I hope he doesn't.
If it's supposed to happen, it's supposed to happen. Yeah. So we do get a quick shot of Tess and Celeste in the audience, by the way, in this magician scene, so that we as viewers know we're not just watching Eric do his performance, the angels are as well. They're on the case, so to speak. So on stage, the music starts, and it's not what I would have thought. I've never been to a magic act, so I can't say what they really play, but it's not what I would have thought.
We haven't gone to see Rick Thomas playing Branson yet.
You need to do it. And Van, did you by any chance acquire any Rick Thomas material for these episodes of the podcast?
Maybe we'll find out about that later.
Good.
Maybe. We'll see.
It sounds like no.
I had down for this music that it sounds like knockoff jock jams.
Yeah,
almost.
Kind of does. I love the way Corbin Bernsen as Eric the Magician fucking stomps around stage.
You made him sound, that's like the most boring thing to call him, Eric the Magician.
Right. He's waving his arms. Well, Rick fucking Thomas chose his name as Rick Thomas.
Yeah.
I don't get it. But anyway,
at least name yourself Trick Thomas. That's what you're doing.
He kills it in this episode. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Corbin Bernsen's kind of good in this.
I love him. He
hams it up a bit, but it's great.
Well, of course he hams it up. He knows what he's doing.
He's a real actor.
The speeches that he gives, and there are 5 or 8 of them, they're very long and they're all existential in nature. They are really funny. I think he gives off the vibe of a magician who takes himself way too seriously.
I buy he's the character he is.
Yeah.
100%.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no for me. I felt like some of the stuff he does...
The emotional scenes are bad.
Yeah, okay, I agree. Yeah, he's not exactly a stellar line reader, but his energy was perfect for the character he's supposed to be playing.
And to your point, Spencer, I think my guess is this is a case of a good actor having barely looked at the script.
And it being a bad script.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame him because I do feel like I was initially worried he was going to be terrible and then very quickly realized he was not.
I love him as the Angel of Death, the magician, but when he's Eric, I'm like, oh, this is
That's fair.
This is a guy who knows his character is cardboard, and does not know what to do with it, but he knows how to play showman.
He is much more convincing with his lines as the magician, you're right. When he has to do the personal stuff, it's always awkward.
Yeah, but when he's talking about the balance between life and death and the tight wire, all that's great.
I forget how many clips I have of him. We're going to get at least one clip of my favorite thing that he does very shortly as the magician. This first act that we see here, his assistants wheel out a coffin. They hand him a tank of gas, and he quickly uses that to drench himself all over. He just climbs right in that coffin, and then an assistant hands him some kind of a blowtorch or firework or something, and he waves it around lit. There's a huge flame in this thing. He waves it around right above his body. He's very dramatic in this whole thing. You can't see him, but he's in the coffin. You can see his arm waving the fire right above it, so you know what's about to happen. And then there's a big explosion of flames. And surely he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead. Episode over.
Only no, he's not dead. He's actually under the shawl of the assistant who just handed him that fire device.
What? How'd he do that?
I know, it's magic. So he faces the applauding crowd, and let me tell you, that crowd is applauding.
They go nuts.
And he asks them for the first of many times if they are disappointed that he is not dead.
Yeah, he is very antagonistic toward his audience, which Rick Thomas also is from what we've seen. So from what we know of magicians, this is consistent.
Well, his whole, are you disappointed I have not died tonight? That's very much are you not entertained?
Yeah, and he does fancy himself a bit of a gladiator of the magic stage.
And then reminds them what the great Houdini, who he clearly admires, that's obvious, once said, which is, not even death can hold me. More applause. Celeste leans in and asks Tess, what's so special about magic anyway? It's like God does it all the time. Tess ignores that. Just completely doesn't answer that and says, well, so Eric loves illusions because they allow him to avoid facing the truth, Celeste. This is why he needs an angel. And this is why that angel needs to be you.
Now, I'm not going to make this into one of my things because this show is stupid and doesn't even deserve that and isn't thinking too hard about what it's actually doing. But Tess's attitude the whole time that, this person has channeled their pain into some sort of art form. What an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good use of your pain versus taking it out on others. That's healthy.
Well, that's a product of this episode, too. I'm getting ahead of myself, but the whole time they rag on him for being this evil monster.
He didn't
He's not
do
harming
anything.
anyone but himself.
He did nothing wrong anyway.
So what? He's cool as fuck and can run around a stage and make himself turn on fire and disappear and fall on swords? They're all just jealous.
It's at this moment, right, when Celeste learns this is her case. They're not just there to watch the magic act. This is her case.
Like Tess takes all of her angels out for a magic show before they get started.
I don't do this for all my trainees.
Right at that moment, Eric asks the audience for a volunteer. And Tess decides that will be Celeste. And she says, right here, Celeste will do it. And much to Celeste's chagrin, Eric just says, okay, fine, I'll go along with that. And he does take Celeste on stage. He gives her the basic outline of what this upcoming thing is.
Well, Celeste, do you mind if we decompose your subatomic particles and rearrange them in the time and space continuum?
Huzzah.
See, Celeste actually does know what he means there. And says,
I sure didn't.
I don't. And she's like, oh, you mean like disappear? Yeah, I think I'd like that. And the audience just eats it up. It's a great act so far. Eric ushers Celeste into the vanishing device compartment.
It's like a big outhouse.
Yeah. A lot of this stuff through this episode, I just kind of call the thing because I don't know the terms on this. And then in the middle of loading Celeste into the vanishing device, Tess's little barky dog jumps off her lap, which she brought to the show.
Yeah, can you bring dogs to magic shows? I didn't think so.
I don't. Well, maybe Eric likes that. Maybe he's like, pets allowed.
What's more magic than a love between a pet and their owner?
I found that dog to be a little annoying, but I'm not really a little dog guy.
I'm a big dog guy.
Yeah, if you're gonna get a dog, you got to go all the way. Don't make like what is actually a cat in a dog body.
I want a dog that can lift, man.
Don't half-ass your dog. Get a full dog.
I want one of those working dogs. It's one of the breeds.
I want me a hog dog.
Eric doesn't even give a shit when this dog jumps in the vanishing compartment with Celeste and she's like, 2 for 1.
Yeah, man, he improvs his way right through it. I was impressed. He yes-and right through it.
He's in command when he's in front of an audience.
So he shuts the two of them in the compartment and then spins the angel and dog around in there. And we see the spotlight moves over to a matching compartment just beside that, which then gets the same spinning treatment.
And no one turned into Wonder Woman.
We get the idea that we're going to see she vanished from one into the other. He's got them both spun around. We're seeing one on each side of him. And then he does this thing, holds up his hands to both sides, and some really super cool sparks just fly out of his fingers.
And it's then that's revealed that he is a Sith Lord. We didn't know until now. I ask you, you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Bernsen the Wise? I thought not. It is not a story the atheists would tell you.
I forgot about how Emperor Palpatine gained all of his universe-ending power from taking down Corbin Bernsen.
Yep.
At first, this seems to be going just fine because he opens the first compartment she was originally in. She's not there, but she's obviously not supposed to be, so no big deal. The problem is when Eric opens the second compartment that I assume he was trying to transfer into, she's also not there. So we have a bit of an issue here. He's completely mystified right away. And then Tess remarks aloud, I just lost my first angel. And she took my dog with her. She's pissed, I think mostly about the dog. She's not terribly concerned about Celeste at this point anyway. Anyway, that's actually all setting up the intro now. So that was like a 6-minute process.
These are long cold opens.
And now we see the introduction, which is nothing at all. Did you guys have any thoughts on that?
No, there really is nothing.
Nothing.
The only thing I like is there's a scene where Monica's there in her baseball outfit and she's giving signals. And I want to know what the hell's going on there. That's it. Everything else is her wandering in the desert or just fishing, doing nothing. It's bad.
While Della Reese sings at us. Like the whole thing. Cutting back to the actual show and the magic show, which is, I guess, between acts, Eric is just fucking fuming because there were network executives in the show, guys.
Probably from CBS.
This was his big chance to impress them and land a television special, and now it's ruined. They're not going to want to do it now with his volunteers are disappearing. So Eric lashes out at his lead assistant, Carla, who we're meeting very briefly. I'll just put it that way, demanding to know what happened. Carla has no idea. Eric says, the trap is working fine, Carla. You know what? I think Celeste was a plant. I think the dog was a plant. You know what? Why not? Carla, you're a plant. And then he just completely loses his shit.
And you? Who are you working for, Carla? Copperfield? Huh? Lance Burton? How much did they pay you?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, after tonight's show, you're out of here.
Oh, no, I quit now.
Ah!
Your act is too dangerous, and you know, I think you really want to die. You are crazy.
I am not. I am the best. No one can beat me, not even Houdini.
You are not.
That one is seriously, I was doing exactly what you guys are. And I even rewatching it several times, still laughing.
His whole, when he just gets fed up with her is
Oh
phenomenal.
no, I quit now.
And he had me at Lance Burton.
That was definitely my favorite moment for Eric, and he's got a lot of great things in this whole episode. It's in the middle of this that Tess somehow decides now's the time to confront him about losing her friend and her dog, which Eric doesn't want to deal with any of that. He's like, I don't know what happened to her. Screams for his agent, a man named Andy. And as he appears on screen, a nice little triumphant chime plays in the background. That is what signals when an angel, it's very subtle. You guys might not have noticed it. Whenever we know, oh, okay, this is one of the characters has worked their way into this person's life and is doing a thing. Me watching this the first time, I didn't know who Andrew was. So I didn't even know that he was an angel at first.
Got real big hair.
If you're watching the show, of course, you'd be like, Andrew, the angel of death. He's the agent in this one. You'd get it. Again, it is not subtle about how they do this. Later on, of course, you guys might have missed it. There's some bright lights over their heads when you see the angels on screen.
It's so corny.
They do some real subtle stuff there to let you know when the angels are on screen. So once again, this is the third main angel character. So he's the real angel of death, not that fake magician one, Eric Weiss. And he immediately starts in on the damage control, playing the agent, assuring Eric, like, look, the network loved it. I think he even says they love the bit with the disappearing girl.
They're really into the like post-ironic magician thing you've got going on where you scream and lose people.
They love how your volunteer's actually gone. They think that's super cool and they're still into it. Eric says, okay, well, it's not totally fine because I did just fire my assistant. You need to fix that before the curtain goes up or I'm going to fire you too.
Well, right now I feel like I needed to be the angel of taking a poop. So let's take our break here.
Believe me, I'll walk with you.
So Tess approaches Andrew at this point. Again, they know each other, but I didn't realize that when I was taking these notes. And he tells her, I've got to find someone who looks good in tights. And then gives Tess a look like he wants it to be her. A little bit odd.
And he does. Spencer's not imagining this. Andrew looks at Tess in a sex way.
It's so weird. They play it off lightly. Like Tess just like, oh no, it's not going to be me. But the whole thing was just an awkward exchange.
And it could be something to do with the fact that Andrew is dressed like a late 80s, early 90s agent. So he looks like a creep.
He's Arliss through and through.
Arliss?
So Tess says she's not doing it, but she does have someone in mind for that job. And by the time the next act begins, Monica's there, and she's the volunteer, just like Van said. We were led to believe this is an episode led by Celeste, and it's not at all. This is not even 10 minutes in the episode, I don't think, and Monica's just doing a regular role.
Do you think that was like a psych for the network back
Could
then?
be.
They were like, we're going to teach our loyal Touched by an Angel fans to be worried that we're going to replace our lead actress, and then boom, here she is.
Don't worry, Mommy's back.
Sorry. Oh, don't worry, Mommy's back.
Don't you worry, your pretty little heads.
So Monica, though, does not miss a beat as Eric's new assistant, just knows apparently all the acts and what to do and how to play the part.
Eric doesn't miss a beat in his little never-ending spiel either.
This next little thing that he does involves him having his wrists bound, which Monica does for him while she introduces herself and says, I'm Monica. I've got a lot of experience in search and rescue. Little wink to the audience there.
Wah, wah. My favorite part of that, though, is Eric looks at her and goes, shh, and shushes her.
I mean, he's busy, and she's sitting there trying to tell him about her resume. He's like, I've got to do the Spikes of Mortality now, which is the name of this next act, by the way. And he tells the audience that while bound, he will now be tied in a sack and hoisted by a burning rope over a bed of spikes.
When he said Spikes of Mortality, I laughed out loud.
All the names for his acts are so bad. They're so stupid.
First thing that came to his mind, and he just goes with it.
As expected, the burning rope does not do a very good job of holding the bag over the spikes. The bag lands directly atop the deathly spikes, and he's dead again.
It makes a plop crunch thing that was almost jarring. I'm like, oh my God, I might have actually witnessed a body fall into a pit of spikes.
That's what the audience thinks. They scream in horror, but then it turns into cheers because right behind them, who comes in that door? Eric. He's fine. He's not impaled at all, just completely one piece, and turns to the stage and asks Monica to show the audience the contents of the sack.
And this is how we find out Monica's the one that filled the sack.
It's nothing but potatoes.
I assumed it was a dig at her in some capacity.
Well, the audience does have a very negative reaction to her being like, well, it's just potatoes in
Because
here.
that is not exciting yet.
No, but then they get turned into something that flies away, which I think is just a dove, right? Couple of doves.
Oh, yeah.
I wrote down pigeons in my note, but those are doves.
This show has something with doves. At the beginning of every episode, we see a dove fly by. At the end, another CGI dove.
Some kind of angelic symbol. Doves are beautiful.
It's our first episode starts with bird thing since Walker. Do you remember how there's this hawk that just started out one of the episodes we covered?
That was the very first Walker one with the Native American shaman guy who was haunting a construction site.
That's right. That's right. Years ago now.
So when the potato doves fly away, we have the end of an act, and it was a good one. The crowd is like, "Oh my God, I can't wait till the next show."
By
Best
the way,
magic show
potato
ever.
doves just now reached my brain.
Yeah, it made it up in there and you registered. Wait, potato doves. That sounds delicious. You get your protein and your starch, whatever else potatoes
and
are.
whatever's in talons.
Magician and assistant take a bow together. They're an unstoppable team now. So after the show, this is a real strange scene. A mother and her young son have an opportunity for a meet and greet with Eric, which I think this is just a little character background for our magician here.
Lets us know he's a good guy.
Sure. And Eric teaches the boy a basic magic trick with a pencil. The mother then...
Wait. Did you happen to catch the name of the little boy?
Oh, I didn't think that was important.
It is because it's Brian.
It's another
This
little
is
boy
another
Brian.
little boy Brian.
Yet again proving if you were born in the 80s, you might have been named Brian. Like the odds are pretty good.
We still only had one Spencer or Spence and only one Van. We've had 3 Bryans at least.
At least 3, and they've all been children.
I actually did, when I saw that scene, be like, well, Rand's going to mention little boy Brian again. I knew that as soon as that happened. This is so strange because the mother is grateful. She's like, thank you for being so nice to my son. And he was.
And you'd think that'd be good, and probably you don't need to talk about anything more personal.
She's like, he just hasn't smiled since his brother died. I'm going to tell this celebrity magician my deepest, darkest tragedy that just happened last spring, by the way. It's fresh in everyone's mind. And she just pours her soul out to this guy. Again, Eric, great job. He's fantastic about it. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's so hard to lose someone, especially when they are young. I think he might have been through something like that.
The thing is,
guys.
not even Houdini himself would be able to find a way to make grief disappear.
You know what else is handy, though, about going to a magician for comfort is they can just make a handkerchief appear in thin air.
Laughed really hard out loud.
Amazing.
He's comforting her. He's like holding her and then just can't resist the urge to magic over it. And whoosh, this handkerchief appears.
I think she appreciates it. And then that allows him to he's like, no, if you'll excuse me, and leaves. And she's good. And I think she feels better.
I wish he had like evaporated into like a smoke that said condolences.
You know, I bet magicians get a lot of mom pussy. I bet they do. Just like this. He could have gotten in her pants or dad dick, wherever you're into.
Whatever they're into.
I bet they get it.
I bet okay, I see what you're saying. Magicians appeal to the children and the parents for different reasons.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like Rick Thomas is going to get, model whoever.
I'm saying that.
But I'm saying he's going to get mom of 4 who maybe owns an antique store and no longer has the feelings she once had for her husband.
That's next week.
Oh, shit, I messed it up. But you get the idea.
I do. I don't disagree with this because I kind of think that like there is some appeal in a man who's confident enough to do this sort of thing on a stage. That's kind of a next level amount of bravado.
You see somebody wave their hands around like that and you think that's a guy I can get behind.
There's a base level of coolness to almost anything a person can do on a stage.
Sure.
Not this. So because of that, if you're doing it, you like, maybe there is a base level of coolness actually, because you have to be so bold to say, people want to see me do this thing.
It's a different road to get there from what you're saying.
Yeah.
I understand. Yes. Okay. So we just saw a pretty kick-ass magic act, right? There are other kick-ass magic acts in the world, perhaps those performed in Branson, Missouri by noted illusionist Rick Thomas. I have some more TripAdvisor Rick Thomas reviews where someone writes a review of his show and then he gets on TripAdvisor and responds to it.
This is one of my all-time favorite segments we've ever done.
It's been like 100 episodes because we did this in Holmes and Yo-Yo. I stumbled across this Rick Thomas guy. He's a magician here in Branson, Missouri. And like I said, he responds to his TripAdvisors. So I have a few of them.
To kind of let listeners who haven't listened to the Holmes and Yo-Yo episodes we did know, this is not necessarily an entertainer who responds well to criticism.
Oh, you'll see. So let's see. First off, we have companion and then a series of numbers. That person posted this 2-star review about Rick Thomas's Magic Mansion show.
And this isn't 2 out of 2, right?
No, 2 out of 5.
Oh, he's not going to like that.
Rick Thomas's show was just another magician performance. The illusions were predictable, and there was nothing particularly unique or exciting about the show. The overall presentation lacked enthusiasm and failed to capture my interest. Honestly, the audience engagement felt forced. It felt like a run-of-the-mill magic show that didn't stand out from the others in the area. If you've seen other magic shows in Branson before, you won't find anything new or memorable here. It's a pretty scathing review.
It is.
Yeah, that's actually probably, it isn't overly mean. I mean, they seem like they're just presenting what they believe to be their opinion, but it is more scathing than anything we had the last time we did this, I think.
I would say if they want to give him 2 stars, they should have mentioned one thing they did like about it.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one argument I would have to their review.
Well, let's see what Rick Thomas had to say about that review. And I'll read this in my Rick Thomas voice. My, oh my. Sometimes I wonder. People come from all walks of life and see things quite differently than others. To keep everyone up on my travels, I also continue to star in Las Vegas and tour the world part of the year, and I have received the highest honors, Illusionist of the World, from the World Magic Awards from my peers. In fact, I keep grinning, thinking about my show and comparing it to the words you have written. What show were you watching? Winky emoji. My very best wishes to you, and I do hope your life is far better than the way you describe the show. My, oh my.
I guess he figures if he throws enough my oh my's in there, it makes him look less hurt by it and more just astounded. Yeah, like how could anyone think that?
And that is mostly how it seems he is kind of hurt when he responds to these.
I'm sure he is.
I have several of these. We'll touch on these more as we go.
Rick will make appearances throughout. Okay, I like that. It's kind of like a magician. He pops up when you don't expect it.
So I can't rate Rick because I haven't seen Rick Thomas yet. But I actually think Eric is very good.
He's a
It
good
seems like he
magician.
really knows what he's doing. I believe it. So he's just wrapped up a show. He's just consoled the mother. He's had a pretty good night overall, aside from the disappearing thing. That's kind of a problem. He's clearly exhausted from his performance, and he's walking towards the backstage area where his eyes briefly land on a seemingly innocent refrigerator. He stares at coldly for several seconds, triggers the start of a flashback, which we just don't know what that means yet, because Monica quickly interrupts and asks if he's all right. He's not, by the way, but we don't really get an answer from him because Andrew re-enters the scene to tell Eric the network's thrilled. They do want you to do a special in Houdini's hometown, though, which is some place in Wisconsin.
It's where they like to film every big event, Appleton, Wisconsin.
Eric knows exactly what the small town in Wisconsin is. Appleton, he says, and he says, I'm not doing that. Forget it. It's off. Deal's off. And then Andrew says, well, the network's really sold on this. They really want the Houdini parallel. You've got to do it in Appleton or they got to find someone else. So it's just going to have to be you do it or you don't do it. Eric gives in and storms off. So where does he storm off to? Well, a big mysterious chest with Houdini on the front so you can pull out a yellow newspaper and stare at it, lost in thought. That's all we know so far.
He carries around the mementos of his horrible past in his magic chest with him.
And we'll find out later that his whole family kind of, I guess, does that. They just kind of have their most tragic artifacts around them at all times.
They like to save that paper, apparently. So we don't know anything more than that yet, and I won't spoil it if you haven't seen this episode of Touched by an Angel.
And you're wanting to after hearing this far.
But rest assured, we're about to get into the good shit.
Oh, yeah. Tess and Monica watch all this from nearby, by the way, while Tess remarks on what a great man Houdini was and how he was a man of faith.
What was all that?
I don't know.
I guess he was religious? I don't know.
He must have been. Who used his real name for his magic acts, unlike that faithless coward Eric Weiss.
Yeah, piece of shit using a name that isn't his actual fucking coward.
Stage names are for heathens.
And Tess remarks about how Eric Weiss is apparently not afraid of anything in his acts, but he is afraid of going home.
Ooh.
I'm also afraid of visiting rural Wisconsin.
I bet there's good cheese.
That's about it.
Actually, no, I'm not. It's just like rural Missouri.
Yeah. That's where Katie's from.
And there's good cheese in rural Missouri as well.
Sure. There's all that craft underneath the town.
And there's the Osceola cheese factory.
Yeah, it's a big deal. A lot of people apparently just come to this area for Osceola, and that's it.
Oh, probably that shouldn't do that.
They also probably visit the Uranus Fudge Factory.
Cheese and fudge. I like a good cheese and fudge on my weekend sometimes.
Now, okay, I like fudge, and I like cheese. I don't know that I want cheese and fudge.
Yeah, it's probably not something that goes together. You never know.
I'd do it.
I mean, I'd do it.
We're going to have to settle this now. It's going to have to happen, a cheese and fudge day.
It's chocolate and cheese. It's going to be a real ween day.
You guys are going to be happy because guess who we get to meet here in our next scene?
That's what I was talking about with the good shit.
Your favorite people, your favorite person.
Big Davy Leisure.
He's a real mover and shaker in the Appleton community in this show. He's Councilman Hinckley, and he is handling the introduction to what appears to be the local media that's assembled for this massive reveal.
At the elementary school gymnasium? What is this tiny
some
room?
kind of little assembly room, some kind.
Copperfield was doing all sorts of elementary schools at the peak of his fame, I'm sure.
It's some kind of press event that they put together in Appleton, and there's a dozen media members in little chairs and
probably
4
the
people
whole
on the
population.
stage. It is not much of an event, but they're trying. They're doing their best.
Don't tell Eric that, though. He's prepared with a lot of different things to do during this.
As always, I felt like he
showman.
handled it pretty well, although he's not thrilled to be there, and that's obvious, but he still has a lot to say. In any case, Councilman Hinckley has actually made up a key to the city for Eric, although he can't find it, and this is one of those David Leisure moments where he's patting himself down looking for his key and saying that he made it at his very own shop, Hinckley's Hardware Emporium. And it's all so believable, and the audience eats it up because it is funny.
And he's the local hardware guy. He's a celebrity to this local audience.
You know what that reminded me of too, how he plugs his store is the Bob Vance refrigeration thing.
Yeah.
It's just like that.
The look on David Leisure's face when he realizes he doesn't have the key felt actually
like he'd lost the key.
the sense of realization. It was very unnecessarily good.
It was.
Did you guys, when watching this though, when he's like, I can't find the key, immediately go, oh boy,
Of course.
gonna go down.
It wouldn't have shocked me at that point if that fucker came flying through the window with flames and like a crystalline glow.
Eric does cut all this off, this fanfare off, and says, that's okay. I don't need a key. After all, no chain, no lock can hold the angel of death. To the assembled press, who at this point that's the first thing he said, and they're just kind of like, okay.
Interesting press release.
Surely the first time they've seen him either, because he's not a nationally known magician yet. So they're just like, this Corbin Bernsen fucking guy comes in here and starts doing that shit. I'm sold.
That, I guess, signals to the press that it's time to begin their questions, which is spearheaded by one journalist in particular who's very feisty and wants to get to the bottom of some of Eric's background that he won't disclose on his press kit. She says, your information does not tell any real background information about you or your family or really anything of your upbringing. Eric deflects some of this and says, magicians have a right to some secrecy to retain some of their mystery. And by the way, if you're wondering about my lineage, it goes all the way back to Merlin himself.
Oh.
So that's some serious A+, changing the conversation, making people laugh just a little bit, and kind of getting out of trying to answer that question. Most of the journalists laugh at this, but our feisty lead journalist here who's taking point says, do you really expect us to believe that? He says, look, it's not just magicians who have things to hide. Journalists have things to hide too. Why don't you check the left-hand pocket in your jacket?
It's a gun.
She says, there's nothing in here, but I'm specifically going to mention the inventory, which is a ballpoint pen. And there's nothing else in here.
Oh, wait, nope. Here's my dogged sense of duty.
So the way she delivers it is there's a little pause. She says, there's nothing here but my ballpoint pen, and your little jingle, and a key to the city.
And it's a big ass key too.
Yeah.
Which
you would know that thing was in there.
The rest of the press is now,
they're on board.
They're converted into fans at that point. They start cheering.
What if she was, trying to show off for everybody? She's like, there's nothing in my left pocket except for my pen and a pack of condoms.
Yeah, I get laid. A reporter bragging at a press conference.
And then she does the finger through the hand thing.
See, I know how it works.
With this having been established, Eric's like, all right, I've won this press conference. Let's have a toast. But this is not an ordinary toast.
Because, again, Eric tries really hard. He's always at work.
What he's going to do for his toast is he's going to have 6 glasses. One of them's got water in it.
What do the other 5 have?
The other 5 have hydrochloric acid.
Do you think he's packing up his stuff, getting ready for this? He's just like, damn it, Monica, where's my hydrochloric acid? Did you pack it?
No, it's in the huge fucking jug labeled hydrochloric, because it is. Did you guys see that thing?
Yeah, it's very clearly labeled.
Where'd you put my Erlenmeyer flask?
While he speaks, he steps away to speak to Andrew, his agent, and says, Councilman Hinckley, go rearrange those so I don't know which one is the water and which one is the acid. And then when he comes back, he just grabs one, doesn't look at it, he just grabs it unceremoniously and tells the crowd, to life or maybe death, and then takes a confident drink, swallows, goes, doesn't die, pours it out, and there's smoke and he disappears.
Pretty cool.
Poof, gone.
I will say, though, I think if you were in his life personally, in Eric's life, you would want it to be more relaxed.
Yeah.
Can you chill slightly?
Yeah, you would want to just
Well, do you think he can keep that up all the time in his personal life, or do you think he just lets it down?
I think
because he's so mopey and sad.
I think this is a really intense. This is probably a lot like living with Edgar Allan Poe.
So later, after all this, and again, Eric did a hell of a job in that press conference, and he did set the stage. He told them, I'm looking forward to visiting your Houdini museum. I'm going to put on a hell of a show for you later. I'm going to disappear in some smoke.
But he put a show on then. This is like if LeBron James signed his contract, did the press conference, and played a fucking game at it. You're crazy.
With all that fanfare having been established, I guess this is prepping for the show, or perhaps just gathering stuff from the stage. Because I looked, and this is Monica on the stage by herself in that same place they just had the press meeting.
Yeah, she's packing a
the
hydrochloric
chairs are
acid.
back there. Yeah, and she's cleaning up afterwards. At this point, it's time for Celeste to come back to the show because we don't know what happened to her. So that whole thing's been dangling, that plot thread. We don't know what's going on there. We're wondering about that. And we hear a little, I'm speaking for the audience. Which we are not the audience in this because we would never watch this.
I am being serious, though, that when this came back up, it was like, oh, shit, yeah, Celeste.
100% that had completely eclipsed my mind.
It'd be great if they just did not revisit that. If they just left it, we're like,
or like
fine.
4 seasons later, they're like, oh, what did we do
that
with
would
her?
be super cool if they made it, if you made you wait that long to get the reveal on this.
And she's got like a dog skeleton with her.
Oh, man.
Wait,
yeah.
is the dog an angel?
I think it's just a dog.
Wouldn't it be suffering?
I don't.
As we find out, it's hidden into the ether or whatever, or like in a chest.
But we're discounting perhaps the magic powers of the angels around the dog to make the dog feel better.
Can you do that?
I don't know what all.
Angels can do whatever they
It
put their minds
seems that they
to.
can do about anything, up to and including learning networking. But again, that's next week.
This is one of those things that I honestly didn't even think about that. But yeah, even in this scene, you hear the little dog bark that signals to Monica that Celeste may be nearby in one of the chests. Did not think about it. It was like, oh, this dog's just in a chest.
Suffering.
That can't be good.
No.
That can't be good. Didn't occur to me.
I got to tell you, it didn't occur to the fucking writers of Touched by an Angel either.
So Monica opens the chest. Yes, Celeste is in there with the dog. And here's a little moment here where we have to discuss what Celeste is doing and what she thinks is going to come of this little disappearing act of hers. These two are meeting for the first time, but I should say that Celeste knows about Monica because I guess Monica's a big deal in the angel world. She's like a superstar caseworker.
Yeah, one of the most popular angels.
Probably has her baseball card, with all the stats on the back.
She grew up wanting to be just like her.
51 conversions.
She wears number 73 just like Monica as a tribute.
Celeste, she's nervous, and she does, while she's talking to Monica, she does get, I think, kind of excited about the job again, even though she's afraid of it, because she's like, I want to be like you, Monica. I want to be a superstar caseworker. Do you have any tips for me? And Monica's just like, don't piss off Tess. To the extent you guys said, you both think Tess is an awful person.
Tess is mean and irredeemable.
And you have to get in her good side if you want to be able to do the job of being an angel. Is her tip for her. And she leaves it at that.
I hate these scenes. They don't do anything.
It was horrible to write the notes on this because nothing does happen here. And Celeste coming back to the show was clearly not really something they had to do right now, if at all. But when they did it here, they don't have anything to talk about.
Honestly, the angel scenes when there aren't a lot of external characters, they're filler.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that comes from this next is even more befuddling, which is Tess returning to the scene in the middle of this. Her and Monica have this discussion, and Monica doesn't have any dialogue. It's all Tess. It's one-sided, like, you've been acting weird. You know where Celeste is, don't you?
Insane. Like, there's actually no reason for her to think this or know this, but it's another thing of where, like, and I don't like this about Tess either, is that she's made into some sort of god figure that is always mean, but always right.
To your point, Spencer, Monica just
She
nods
won't
or
say
shakes her
anything.
head. She won't say anything. And I think the angels are supposed to be somewhat childlike. And partly because Roma Downey might be a child in some ways. Because you know how we can see David Leisure playing this councilman and we're like, oh my God, that's a councilman. He's done it so good. Because what Roma Downey does when she acts like a child, I see and I go, oh my God, she fucking nailed
I wasn't
that.
sure if it was because she was conflicted, trying to protect Celeste and maybe wanting to tell her boss what's going on. But the scene was super weird. And Tess senses that she knows more than she's willing to say. So she ends the scene by saying, like, okay, fine, you and Eric have a secret. I have one too. It's what I'm going to do to the two of them when I find them.
Is she gonna fuck them up?
Her dog?
Apparently.
What did her dog have to do with it?
I think it's weird that in a show with angels, the angels are deceitful.
Yeah, that she's like,
And
Yeah.
when I
vindictive?
get a hold of that bitch,
Yeah.
I'm going to fuck her up.
I want to pour hydrochloric acid on him.
Really, just a weird scene, and I don't know what the point of it is. When Tess leaves, Monica checks the chest again afterwards, and I put here, perhaps understandably after listening to Tess do that, Celeste is no longer in it. That's it for now. Elsewhere, Eric taking a trip around his old stomping grounds. First place he decides to go, psychiatric hospital.
As one
We
does.
get another brief flashback like earlier. This one actually has a little more in it. There's a woman who's being taken away by presumably psychiatric care workers as a crying young boy watches. I wonder if that's young Eric and his mom. Possibly. We don't know that for sure. Back in the present, Eric has the door locked behind him as he stands in front of an elderly woman wandering around the room with a rolled up newspaper, swatting at imaginary flies. He greets her as Ma, and we learn, yes, this is his mother, and she's in a psychiatric ward, and he is visiting her while he's in town.
And then he says to his mom, I need to deliver some exposition.
It's me, Danny. So we figure out Eric isn't Eric at all. He's Danny. The woman says, "Oh, Danny, have you seen your father?" Eric says, "No, I have not seen my father because he's been gone a long, long time." And then come to think of it, I've been gone a long, long time too, haven't I, mother? And through dialogue, more exposition, like Brian mentioned, happens where Eric says through other words that he's essentially, okay, he's not keeping up with her, he's not establishing the relationship, but he is paying for her to stay at this place.
He could have just said, "I'm damaged, but I mean well," and still pay for my mother's care.
Mhm.
They have it instead very jilted and awkward where he says like, "Well, the doctors say you're doing good and I'm going to keep sending the checks and I'm going to go because I don't really have anything else to say and it's weird to be here."
I know we haven't seen each other in years, but I'm going to need to come back later to kind of break up the other plot lines. Thanks, bye.
What you can say, though, is it wasn't much of a performance. Like, this was his actual feelings. Do you know what is a performance? Why, of course, the magical mansion in Branson, Missouri, where Rick Thomas performs.
I wonder how his relationship with his parents is.
Can't be good. This one comes from Lila J., who says, it's 2-star, by the way, not a favorite when referring to Rick Thomas's performance. First thought this is going to be a good show. I left at intermission as there was more talking in the first half than there was illusions. I went for a magic show, not a lecture. How did he get a Vegas show for years? But without a question mark. I think it's a question. However, the dogs are beautiful.
And these dogs, I believe you have to pay to be photographed
To
with
pet
or
'em?
something.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Rick Thomas read this review and he said, "My show's success relies on a full production with a tremendous amount of illusions and a minimal storyline that specifically talks about following your dreams.
And one of my favorite illusions, evasion of the question.
There are 10 spectacular illusion and production segments in the first half alone. Your assessment seems to be skewed just a bit. I am sorry you were not able to experience the full production. Follow your dreams and don't give up halfway."
He's really improved at this because these are more recent reviews and responses. He is still clearly a bit defensive and hurt.
Oh, they're petty.
But before it was more like, "I'm the best and you don't know what you're talking about." But I do like that in these, he is sort of, he's creating clouds of smoke around the few words of import he's saying.
It's boiling down to, well, that's your opinion. It leaves it at that.
To quote The Big Lebowski, a movie I recently watched, that's just like your opinion, man.
That is just like your opinion, man. Opinion man sounds like one of those newspaper columnists.
That's his like moniker that's made him famous.
I'm the opinion
Hi,
man.
I'm your friendly opinion man here to tell you how a thing is.
These street signs are too woke.
So a big plot device here before Eric leaves. He does, in his hasty goodbye, get a quick line from his mom that reveals something we don't know yet, which is that she still thinks she's living in a far long ago time period. And she says, "And make sure you and your brother are home in time for supper and don't go playing in that goddamn junkyard." Okay, so something happened at a junkyard with the refrigerator. That's all we know so far. So this does trigger another flashback where we're getting a little more pieces each time, but these are awful, stupid flashbacks that are always confusing and don't ever really make sense. So we see that same young boy from the last flashback, this time calling for someone named Petey to hurry up and come out from hiding so they can make it back home before they get in trouble.
And that junkyard does look pretty fun.
Looks
I'd
kind of
play in
gross.
there.
I think it looks scary.
Sure.
Too dirty for
There's
me.
stuff to climb
You know what it
on.
reminded me of? I know you read part of it, Brian, but I don't know if you got to all of it. But there's some junkyard scenes in It that have forever made me not like junkyards. Terrible things happen in that.
Worse than in this, as it turns out.
Somehow, it did happen.
These flashback scenes also are given the lazy sepia tone treatment.
It looks bad.
It looks bad, and as Spencer said, they're so short and cut up that you can't really put... Like, they do like 10 flashbacks, maybe just do 3 and make them a little longer so you can hang on to more information.
It's funny that they continue to just give a little more information each time, and I'm sure they thought that would be artsy or something.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they'll really be on the edge of their seat not knowing what's going on when it's really just kind of irritating.
I wanted to throw my seat at it.
The camera zooms in ominously on that refrigerator, but Pete himself is nowhere to be seen. So we still don't know what happened to Pete. We do know, like I said, something went down with that refrigerator. Back in the present, it's time for Eric's big show, which, it seems like we have some unresolved issues going on here, but that is just going to have to wait.
I'm sure it'll go fine.
Well, we see him seated in the throne-like chair, so it seems like he's ready to go. I think it might be fine, Brian. At this point, he's completely tied down by a bunch of ropes, but he's got plans on getting out of that. And as he explains to the audience, he'll be opening a safe for somebody who may have run out of breath. But I'm getting ahead of myself. He starts this whole thing by asking the audience how long they think they can hold their breath. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. It's very dramatic. He
35
just
seconds,
keeps going. He's like,
38 seconds.
that's what we're going to find out because
What is time but a figment of the imagination? Every speech he gives is like this.
so dramatic. Well, so they're going to find out in this particular case how long a certain volunteer can hold their breath. And this new act he likes to call the suffocating safe. Another one just like his
Strangle box.
That's awesome. I like it now. Who's the volunteer for this dangerous act, guys? None other than Councilman Hinckley.
Oh, man.
Hell
And
yeah.
I smiled when I saw him volunteer. And then I realized, kind of like Spencer said, like, this is the kind of guy you want as a leader, right? A guy who you can respect but doesn't take himself so seriously. He's willing to be, the assistant in this magic trick.
You're going leader here. Are you implying you want David Leisure as your president? I could get behind that. I'm
You
just
know what?
curious.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Let me just say, I don't know what David Leisure, the man, believes.
Councilman Hinckley, though, you're all for.
He seems like a good guy who has the people's best interests in mind.
I don't know. You're going to find out later. He's like skimming off paychecks of his employees. He doesn't give insurance. He's taking PPP loans.
I don't know. He runs the hardware emporium. I think he earns his money honestly.
Like off hammers.
That could be. He sells a lot of hammers. Another thing, though, is maybe he's just involved in some weird sex stuff, though. Like,
Okay, that can
that's
happen. I
not
don't care
bad.
about that.
Like, it's like normal.
Sure. It's risque.
Consensual, but weird by normal standards, I guess.
Like he likes to, I don't know, hump volleyballs or something.
Sure. And nobody in Appleton, Wisconsin ever humps volleyballs. So they find it weird. Me? I'm humping volleyballs all the time.
If there's one near me, I'm going to hump it.
You know who I guarantee humped volleyball? Tom Hanks in Castaway.
He had to.
He was there that whole time.
That
Wilson.
little face on there. Yeah.
Because wasn't he there for years?
Yeah.
Huh.
All he had was Wilson for company. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm sure he did a little humping.
Do you think Wilson ever humped him?
Wilson's got to get it.
So, what you're saying is you would rather
Forrest
you're
Gump.
fond enough of Councilman Hinckley to where you hope he does not die in the safe.
Yeah, I wanted him not only to live, but to become president. So yeah, I guess that's just what I want.
Well, the problem is the safe only holds enough air for 2 minutes.
Who built this safe? The gravedigger?
We've got to make sure that Eric can get untied from his throne-like chair and then get the safe open, which only he knows how to get into in those 2 minutes, or Councilman Hinckley's dead. So there's a lot at stake here. To really play up the danger here, Eric does have Councilman Hinckley say goodbye. He says, is there anything you'd like to say before you go? And he says, well, I guess I'll have to tell my lovely wife goodbye. Everyone laughs. It's all great fun. He gets in the safe, close the door, and then Monica spins that dial so that I guess even if anybody did want to get in there, they're not going to be able to because only he knows the combination. So far, this is all according to plan. This is fine. What changes everything in a hurry is when a man who looks a lot like Eric enters the room to get a look at the show.
I don't think so. This guy's got glasses on.
Just as Eric is starting to untie himself so he can save Councilman Hinckley. Some interesting things happen here, which is we get Eric vision, and upon seeing this man, his vision goes blurry for some reason.
He freaks the fuck out.
I don't know why that. I guess maybe it's representing a panic attack. But
Yeah, but okay, so you're a magician, Spencer. You're in your big show, and you're sitting there, and at the end of the other fucking room, your goddamn doppelganger shows up. You're going to freak out too.
I don't know that I would stop being able to see. That's the part that really kind of confused me.
That's how it works. Those soldiers, it's just like a real thing. In certain world wars, they would come back completely blind. They weren't physically injured. It's a brain thing.
Okay.
Doppelganger.
I would like it if my brother came to my magic show. But I guess I know he's alive.
Yeah. Well, and Spencer and I don't have brothers. Oh, shit, I have a brother. I do have a brother. I don't. If he showed up here, I would be surprised. You know what? I would freak the fuck out if he showed up.
Well, maybe you can relate to what's
Probably
happening to
just
Eric.
looks like you with glasses on.
So this is a big deal for Eric, obviously, because apparently this is his brother, although he, as we later learn, thinks this is a dead person ghost. While he is getting this blurry vision cam that we're seeing, he chokes out the name Petey. And Monica meanwhile is counting down. She's been told to say every 30 seconds that passes in those intervals, and they only have
Which
2
she's
minutes.
doing in 5-second intervals.
And it's supposedly 30. But she's getting kind of concerned because it's apparently been a full 90 seconds. And then she's like, okay, Eric's not moving. He's not getting out of the chair. I'm going to have to save Councilman Hinckley myself. We alluded to this at the beginning. She tries to open the safe. Can't. Not something angels can do.
Well, the angel powers, I think, normally would. But then, like, later on, Andrew says something like, God wants it to happen. So I think that's what it is. So God is, like, blocking her, like the no guy from
gotta
the
let
commercials.
this play out.
God's like, I'm dangling the councilman's life over the flames and just seeing if this guy figures his emotional shit out. If he doesn't, this guy's dead.
This is another one of my mere toys
I'm
I play
fucked up.
with.
I am a dickhead.
It's part of Eric's fate to see if Councilman Hinckley can survive this.
It's a really narcissistic view if you think about it from Eric's point of view. Like, the whole universe revolves around him so much that him resolving his familial issues with any collateral damage is acceptable.
Just as the crowd believes that all is lost and the councilman's wife screaming someone needs to do something, Eric does finally manage to free himself just enough to reach over and wrench open the safe, although not with any of the flair that would have been planned previously. And Councilman Hinckley is unconscious but alive. He wakes up upon being let out of the safe and immediately starts chuckling and remarking, oh, it's a good thing I was on the swim team. I must have passed out, but I was still hanging in there.
What a good guy.
Yeah, he makes light of it all. Now that tragedy's averted and Councilman Hinckley's not dead, Monica turns her attention to a panting Eric who is so out of breath he can barely speak. And he says, did you see that man in the crowd? And Monica says, no.
Monica, during all this, were you focused on one specific glasses man in the crowd?
Like, who? And he's like, my brother. It's like, didn't even know you had a brother. And Eric's response, too, I didn't know you had a brother. He's dead. And he says, he's dead and it's my fault. And he says, he was right there, though. I didn't believe in ghosts, but I do now. End of scene.
But not end of episode.
No.
And so let's take a moment this episode to read another Rick Thomas review. Triniesu says 3 stars.
Oh, okay.
So this is a pretty good review for what we've seen. It was entertaining. The theater could use an upgrade. The seats sink low, and the theater smells musty. The illusionist was entertaining, though some of his bits were obvious and cheesy. But it was a fun way to spend a night out, and we laughed a lot. Set your expectations accordingly, and you'll be fine.
There's nothing mean about
and
that.
part of that was just the theater.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what Rick Thomas has to say about this.
Maybe he takes it personally.
I have been incredibly fortunate to live out my life's greatest dreams, weaving magic both on and off the stage.
What's he doing off the stage?
Pursuing these dreams has bestowed upon me everything I could ever have hoped for. While you may describe my show as cheesy, I consider myself blessed to have retained the essence of childhood wonder, still presenting my youthful dreams to the world. It is with utmost humility and gratitude that I also accepted the title of Bernsen's Entertainer of the Year just a mere 2 weeks ago. Knowing there's a world out there still looking for a bit of magic. We are committed to maintaining the highest standards for our theater, and your comments are noted. I'm delighted that you found it a great way to spend your evening, filled with lots of laughter. I extend my warmest wishes to you and yours, hoping that the magic life offers us continues within your heart.
I'm glad he did get around to acknowledging the positive part at the very end.
Yeah.
After he talked for a while about how accomplished he was.
Yeah. Just because of the word cheesy. Why didn't he focus on entertaining? That word was there.
Nope, cheesy. Got to focus on it. Maybe he's a cheese guy. Maybe he's like, I'm a chocolate guy.
I don't think you can leave a review that he doesn't respond with defending himself.
And what's often the case is these reviews will be a sentence or 2 sentences, and then his comment is several paragraphs.
Forever.
Well, all right then. On that note, let's go ahead and take a break here. Then we'll come back and talk about Eric's greatest illusion.
Believe me, I'll walk with you.
Well, it's time to make preparations for the next big escape act, guys. In our next scene, we're right away after this whole breakdown he just had. We're in a room with a giant pool. Andrew's instructing some kind of construction crew on getting like a crane set up. Whole bunch of stuff's happening. Monica, though, has just been dealing, of course, with Eric directly. So she comes up to Andrew and says, why did the network decide to air that TV special after how badly it went?
Yeah, I have the same question, Monica. What is happening?
Andrew doesn't actually answer that. He just says, Eric's announced he's going to do the most dangerous escape of his career.
No, but Andrew, he's fucked up 2 shows in a row.
I love how there's a couple times where someone asks a question and the character just doesn't care in this episode.
Monica says Houdini here, except I know how to pronounce Houdini.
Houdini.
Houdini. It is bizarre.
Monica does exclaim here, oh no, not the one Houdini was afraid to perform. Andrew says, yeah, and he's going to do it underwater too. Monica says, this is crazy. What if something goes wrong? Andrew says, well, the producers figure it'll be good TV either way.
Plus, I doubt it would. He's titled this thing The Drowning Pool.
Born!
Monica weighs in that she doesn't think Eric is mentally fit to perform right now.
That's a good take, too. I don't think he is mentally fit to perform this thing. By the way, I don't like this kind of magic, this escape stuff. If there's like teleportation, okay, I'm into it. Or like you fall through a trapdoor. This is just him
What
getting
kind of
out of
magic
chain.
do you want? Would you prefer?
Card tricks.
Okay.
Bunnies coming out of things. Bunnies going into things.
Bunny-based magic.
Maybe a lady in a skimpy outfit.
Okay. So you want nudity and bunnies. I'm not going to disagree. Give me some pizza.
This sounds like he's a specific branch, right? Like a escape artist being a specific kind of magician, because when he says he doesn't want to do the show in Appleton, Andrew says, well, just get another escape artist. He's like, there is no other escape artist.
Which is a real fucking baller move, too, to be like, even if there were to say that, you know? He's like anyone's on his level.
But no, I need magic. I don't need escape. Unless, like I said, the escape involves some sort of magic.
You would not be a Houdini fan then.
No,
yourself.
Wouldn't be. No, did you know that Harry Houdini was born on March 24th, which is my birthday?
I just knew he was a great man, the man of faith.
I knew he was from Appleton, Wisconsin.
So anyway, back at the psychiatric hospital, speaking of Eric being in a bad mental place, it looks like he's determined to face some of his demons after all. Right after a tragedy, no better time. He's visiting his mother again, and this time there's like a sense about it, right? Where he seems more determined to, I guess, actually get to the heart of whatever's wrong with their relationship or
to
something.
perhaps say anything at all.
He just
this
looks
time.
like this time he's gonna talk to her.
He got spooked the first time, but now he's like, all right, I've sat down, I've thought about this.
I'm ready to face my mother.
I'm prepared to talk to my mother who can't really talk.
Did you guys know that's actually Corbin Bernsen's mother?
Is it really?
Wow.
That's cool.
It is pretty cool.
Huh.
Man, I've never been on a movie with my mom.
Not yet.
Which one of your film careers has taken
Neither of us have really done that well. We're not much of an acting family, as it turns out.
He tells his mother, his poor bereaved mother, that she deserved a better life and sits down next to her comfortingly. I guess feeling more comforted by him, she confesses that she's honestly really not that mad at the flies, even though she's always chasing after them. And flies aren't real, but to her they are. And she says, honestly, to be truthful, I kind of like the flies. They give me something to do.
Which is sad.
It is sad. They're having like a little connection moment here where they're both just being vulnerable with each other, or at least as much as she can, since reality is not real to her. While connecting here, Eric thinks like, look, you're all about the flies. You need your paper to do that. We should get you a shiny new paper to beat these imaginary flies with.
They both love looking at old newspaper.
Well, that's the thing. While he takes this old paper from her, he happens to notice, what's on this thing? He unfurls it. And the headline says, well, it's a great headline, Missing Child. Child missing.
Where'd Petey go?
We discover
refrigerator found.
We discover that is what happened with Petey. And of course, you know this by now, but the show has to make sure you see the full reveal.
To really bonk you over the head with it.
As hard as it possibly can. So this is the paper that ran the day Pete's disappearance first made the news. And there's some kind of dramatic music, and Eric's mom looks at him while he reads this newspaper headline and says, "Where'd he go, Danny? Where'd he go?" Eric's mom asks him this as he stares at the paper. Eric leaves abruptly. That's the end of that. Their connection's done.
This whole scene was a real mind freak.
That's even the way they would want you to call it, too. They wouldn't want
they
wouldn't want you to say fuck.
I don't like that his name is Chris with that.
2 S's.
It's Criss.
I know.
That is a bad Chris. Bad Chris. And Chris is just bad.
Why
as a
wasn't
name.
Chris Angel on this show?
Oh, that's a good point.
He's an angel, too.
So the transition from this scene with his mom immediately back to the show, and we start with the line, "Did you come to see me die?" He screams 1 second after this mom scene to the audience.
He has no problem Yeah, there's something beautiful about that, the line between the artist and the man. Once he's on stage, he's able to shift into that, because at this point in his life, is that not maybe who he really is?
I think that's kind of what the angels started to think.
Also, let's say something nice about Touched by an Angel. You know what they got right? America's bloodlust. Because when he goes like, did you not come to see me die? The crowd is like, fuck yeah, dead guy.
It gave me real Slade Craven asking if they can play Who Dies Next vibes. That whole, the whole like, everyone wants, the bloodlust thing.
It is
Everybody
perfect,
wants to
though,
see violence.
because they think that's what they want to see, and as soon as it goes wrong, they're horrified and screaming. They're panicking, but this is what they wanted. So it is time, as we've alluded to, it is time for this big underwater trick that Van is really not having. The crowd is loving it, though, honestly. They're really excited about this. He's already in chains. He's standing by the pool, and he's introducing this act, which, as Brian said earlier, it's called the drowning pool. He explains he's never seen the shackles he's wearing before, or the container he's about to go in. He's never seen either one of them, so he's going to have to escape from the shackles, escape from the container, and he's not looked at it before and cheating now. He just has no idea.
I know that magicians say this stuff to prove like it's even harder to escape, but on some level, it makes them sound like they're really unprepared for the work. Like, I've not even looked at this
I don't know what container is.
I don't even remember what the trick's called, or what.
Where am I?
What did I call this? The fucking danger safe, or what? Everything has a lazy name.
I tried real hard to come up with a second joke about drowning pool, but there's just the one.
Well,
what other songs did they have? Exactly.
I'm sure there were others on that one album, presumably what's that? Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. Is that what that's called?
I think it's just called Bodies, the more I think about it.
Okay.
But yes.
It wasn't a parenthetical, let, and then bodies, and then parentheses, start again, hit the floor, end parentheses.
Sadly was not that. But you're right, there's a B on that album somewhere.
So there's something else going on there.
Who knows what that is, though? I bet Kendall, our buddy, knows, because he had that CD.
Call him.
Nothing wrong with me.
Before this act can actually start, though, we need Councilman Hinckley to anoint the whole thing. So he takes center stage, says, I am proud to support Eric while he's doing this weird pool thing. And this time,
he shouldn't be. He barely got out with his life at the last
He's so
one.
jovial about it. He's like, and he makes a joke, and the crowd loves it. He says, this time I'm going to be happy to sit out in the sidelines and watch from, considering he almost died last time.
I genuinely laugh when they announce his name as being the assistant because of how absurd that would be. The guy almost dies and he comes back, but he's a good dude.
Well, I'm going to leave now, back to the set of Empty Nest.
In revealing the container Eric will be trapped inside, the councilman makes another pitch for Hinckley's Hardware Emporium, where he lists that wonderful kitchen line appliances I talked about earlier, which, by the way, guys, includes blenders, microwaves, stoves, and of course, the big reveal that he's going in, it's a refrigerator.
And when the camera turns around and Corbin Bernsen sees it and the look of shock on his face
and horror,
I laughed really hard again.
Chilling in more ways than one.
They keep trying to do this in this episode where he sees refrigerator and loses his goddamn mind.
I'm sorry. This is like that time period when Stephen King was on too much cocaine. Where he's like, anything could be scary. That filing cabinet,
a vending machine.
The idea of a vicious, man-eating refrigerator.
Honestly, I think the exact opposite of refrigerators. They're kind. They feed me.
They're wonderful. I love looking at fridges.
They provide life, not death.
This one, though, it doesn't have multiple compartments. There's the kinds where the freezer's on top, and there's one that's side by side. It's just one door with a whole bunch of shelves on the door and nothing inside.
And obviously no safety latch.
Do you think it's like they specially made this for him for this show? Or was this like a model of refrigerator in 1996 or whatever?
I think those dual compartment refrigerators were a lot less common back then. So it probably was just a standard refrigerator they had.
With just shelves in it or whatever.
We wouldn't know unless we took an actual visit to Hinckley's Hardware Emporium. But I'm assuming these are common. By the way, right on cue, as he stares down the agent of his doom, I guess is what the refrigerator is, Pete walks in. Or, some guy that looks like him wearing glasses. Doesn't necessarily mean it's Pete, guys.
Could be anyone.
Could be.
Could be Ghost. I don't know why a ghost would have glasses if it's his ghost.
Eric tells Monica, Pete's here. You might not be able to see him, but he's here. And Monica says, maybe you just shouldn't do this. So there's a lot of reasons not to, and, I don't think you should do it. He's like, well, I don't know, this is my fate or something. I got to go in that refrigerator. He mumbles for a while about whether he's been waiting for the moment or the moment's been waiting for him. Monica just kind of pushes him in there and shuts the door because it's like, okay, go away.
Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, but I can't listen to any more of this.
She can't resist one last barb at him once she's got him shut away in there, where she asks him if he knows the difference between truth and illusion. Ooh, it's a big burn. The crowd cheers, drum beat starts, machinery slowly lowers Eric into the pool.
A frothy pool. Why is it so frothy?
And we covered how weird it is there's an entire marching band in this pool area.
Well, they're in this gym pool.
Yeah.
Why not just bring the marching band in? It's a high school.
The refrigerator is completely submerged underwater at this point with Eric inside. And as this happens, Celeste appears beside Monica and is all in on being Eric's angel and realizes he needs help and I want to help him. Monica tells her we can start by praying. And we cut to commercial, since this is the height of TV suspense and no better time to keep the audience on the edge of their seats. So when the scene returns, no time has actually passed. This was all commercial break for the audience at the time. The angels have taken over the dialogue and it's time for some exposition between Monica and Andrew. We learn it's already been 2 minutes since that commercial break happened and no sign of him. Tess announces Eric doesn't need their help because God wants Eric to choose life. Something no one can do for him, not even God.
Except it's all preordained in God's eyes, and he's already...
Don't look at it too close.
Where's that Mormon Bible?
Inside the refrigerator, Eric has more flashbacks to the tragic junkyard incident of his childhood.
He should have been trying to get out of there instead of doing flashbacks.
He's like, oh, I got to finish these flashbacks I've been having.
It would be really funny if any of your day-to-day life was like interrupted by flashback. Hold on. Another flashback.
Because he doesn't do two things at once. He sits there and stares ahead as he has a flashback.
That's what I do when I have a memory. It comes at the expense of all else.
And by the way, whatever you thought was going to happen in the last little bit of this episode, you're wrong. Because I'm baffled as to what happens the rest of the way. It makes no sense.
Bit dumb. By the way, present day Eric, coming back from his flashback, begins to cry uncontrollably in the refrigerator and says, this doesn't make any sense. He says out loud, I don't want to die like this. I just want to be with Petey again.
Well, wouldn't you need to die?
Right.
That's what I'm confused about. That would be like, I'm going to intentionally swallow this water and die so I can be with my brother. But he says, I don't want to die. I want to be with Petey. I don't know. Doesn't make sense. They didn't write that part right. Crucially, he invokes the name of the Lord in asking for help. He doesn't just ask for help in the refrigerator. He says the Lord's name.
You got to beg for it. God's like, yeah, bitch, say my name, and maybe I'll help you.
He begins to remove the chains.
I'm going to need at least 5 texts before I get out of bed.
Back on the surface, the angels observe it's been 3 minutes now, and someone thinks they've spotted Eric walking among them, just in the crowd. This is actually a big moment because someone just sees the doppelganger. It's like, look, it's Eric. And the marching band starts playing and they think he got out. This motherfucker's in the crowd.
And clearly no one in the crowd is familiar with the Angel of Death's work because he would have made a big goddamn production out of it if he escaped.
And this version of Eric, or as we know him, is wearing like a parka and he's kind of soft-spoken and just
kind of a
slumped
sweater.
shoulders.
Yeah, he's a very low-key version of his magician brother.
And he does immediately tell the crowd, no, I'm not Eric. I'm just some other guy. Where's my brother? We need to save my brother. And now we know for sure that Petey is alive and he's not a ghost and he is concerned about Eric.
Okay. What?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Okay, you're watching this episode for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys think that's his brother the first couple of times he sees his visage? And then
I thought it was
from
his
it?
ghost brother.
You thought he was dead.
Ghost, not
Yeah.
a real one.
Not a real
Right?
one.
Because this makes zero sense that it's legitimately his brother.
It never really does either.
Because I'm thinking, like, you can see angels. I mean, they're having conversations. This could be a ghost, and he can have closure with his ghost after he escapes.
I'm not really sure what I thought, and I didn't
A lot about
care.
this ending felt like the writers being like, I want to go home.
So a whole revelation happens upon who we now know as Petey, being here adult alive Petey, saying, hey, let's help my brother under the pool. And Andrew remarks out loud at this whole thing, he's not supposed to die yet. It's a big moment for the angels. So I guess they thought he was supposed to die.
We just got a page from God. He says, not yet.
Monica screams, his twin brother? And Tess orders the refrigerator, pull that shit out of there now. We got a twin brother.
Tess. They just go for it.
Yeah.
This random lady yells and they go, okay, sure.
The magic act is over. They pull it out of the water. It's like emergency rescue.
And the crowd's actually kind of mad, too. About
He's a fraud.
Yeah, he's a fraud. He's been using his twin, and now he needs to be pulled up. Well, why are you surprised? He messed up the last 2 things he tried to do.
Another thing, too.
The guy sucks at this.
If we're going to get into the department of twin brothers and magicians, what is this, the Prestige?
Yeah. It's not quite as good.
Okay, is that the one where Tesla clones himself or whatever? And
Yeah, and
kills
David Bowie's in there. And Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman and the other one, Christian Bale.
And Christian
right?
Bale, too, yeah.
I need to watch this movie again because the first time I watched it, I fucking hated it. I thought it was so
It's not as good as you think.
It's
it was.
not-
pretentious
Now,
and stupid.
I've only seen it once also, but my thought was very, like, good, not great, about it.
I thought it'd be a lot better than it was. So they are able to get Eric out before he drowns, but like Brian said, the show itself is an utter disaster. The crowd is pissed. They don't really care that he is safe because he didn't do his magic job. He didn't do what he was supposed to.
And he didn't die.
He didn't get out or die. He was supposed to do one of those two things, and he did neither. They kind of seem like they want a refund. They're pissed off. Eric still thinks that Petey's a ghost, by the way. So when he sees his long-lost brother waiting for him outside the refrigerator, he says, "Get away from me," and runs away.
Where would you run if you're in this situation?
Somewhere safe.
I would
afraid.
I would go straight to the junkyard where it all began.
Maybe you'll find that same fridge. 40-year-old refrigerator.
Yeah, all dirty and rusted and nasty. He does indeed go to the junkyard, angrily shakes the gate, jumps right up in there. And now he's kind of, I guess, in his own personal ground zero. He takes the setting in. He's overcome, falls to his knees, sobs uncontrollably by himself in the junkyard. When he looks up, that dreaded refrigerator van was talking about, that same one that ate Pete all those years ago, is there, staring back at him. He opens it up, and who's in there? It's not Pete. It's Celeste.
I really wish like an actual corpse would come tumbling out.
A little dead boy.
Before Celeste talks, I'm left thinking this is kind of a mean prank, right?
Why is Celeste in the refrigerator? Yeah, it's a little odd.
You know what? To be honest, I'd love it if Callisto from Xena Warrior Princess fell out of my refrigerator.
She jumps out with that subtle chime noise that the show does to indicate this is an angel. So Celeste is ready to make her first shot here. Take her first case head on and says, like, look, go easy on me. This is my first time. I'm an angel. I'm just going to tell it to you straight. Like I wasn't your assistant. I'm an actual angel. He tries to say you ruined my act. She says, forget about your act. This is your life. And you've done a pretty good job ruining it all by yourself.
Blows right past the angel part to criticize that what went wrong in his act.
And what's wrong with his life? He's a successful magician. He has a perfectly fine career. He has some demons, but we all do. And I don't see why it's like Celeste needs to hit him with, your life fucking sucks.
Well, and we need Monica to show up and admonish him for 5 minutes.
Well, actually, let's just go ahead and get all the angels here.
Yeah, bring them
Gather
on.
them all
One
in the
by one,
junkyard.
just anyone you can think of, let's have them show up at this junkyard.
And just be mean to this poor guy who suffered for his entire fucking life.
Celeste hits him with one big line before all the angels appear, which is, you and me are the same. We're just running from things out of fear, but you know what? You can't run. You can't hide from God.
Which is more ominous than she intended it to be.
Yeah.
It's at that point that she gets a little sparkly light and happy music plays, and she's like, I must have said something good. And then Monica's there the whole time, I guess, and she says, not only good, but true. Monica does deliver a lengthy monologue to Eric, who's got to be kind of overwhelmed, but is just getting angel lectured like crazy now. And she repeats it over and over again about what a waste his life has been and about how it's time to make a change. But she says it like 3 different ways, just over and over again.
Gotta hit that 42 minutes.
Yeah, and the last one she finishes is, you spent your whole life hiding, trying to escape bad things on Petey's behalf, but isn't it time that you stopped hiding and did a little bit of seeking?
Pretty funny. Not on purpose, but like to poetically think, like, what if we do a hide and seek callback? You can't use those words like that and have that come across right.
Too goofy of words.
Yeah.
In the midst of all this kind of trying to get Eric on the right path, he does fill in the last blanks for us as a viewer who may not fully understand the story. And he says, like, yeah, I realized later, somehow, that Pete had been in the refrigerator the whole time. And by the time I got back to the junkyard, the refrigerator was gone and he was in it and he must have been dead. Just drew a bunch of assumptions on that whole thing and assumed all those years he was dead. He never told the mom because he didn't want to upset her. The not knowing drove the mom insane. That's what happened and their whole history. So Monica steps forward to put things in the right perspective for Eric, which is that he did nothing wrong. He did the best he could for his mother, and it wasn't his fault what happened to Pete. Furthermore, kind of the most important thing, Pete's not dead. He's actually just here and alive the whole time. He was kidnapped that day, as it turns out. He didn't die in the refrigerator. He was kidnapped. We don't know much about it, but there was some problem with their family and their father and their mother. And his father had been watching the boys play in the junkyard. And when Pete got left behind the refrigerator, he took the moment to kidnap him.
No big deal now, though, because the father's dead now.
Father's long gone.
This is like someone spilled extra plots onto the plot.
It's horrible.
Oh, what do we do with all these?
You don't have the whole story wrapped up, but you don't need to tie it up the way they did.
No.
It just makes it worse. I'm trying my best to paraphrase because it's all spit out of everyone's mouth here in the last
It's like
2
more
minutes.
more plot than has been in the whole episode, just shoved into one conversation.
Okay, so looking at this from a Christian standpoint, this is obviously Christian media. God, who presumably knows anything and everything at every moment, he experiences all at the same time.
He's the big dog.
He knows that Corbin Bernsen needs to learn a lesson. So he goes, you know what? I want you to kidnap this boy, and I want you to ruin his life for 45 years and make the mom be terrible for 45 years in a psychiatric ward. Ruin this, and then at the end, he'll learn his lesson.
And who knows the people he hurt along the way.
Exactly. We're about to kill Councilman Hinckley.
Yeah, he almost hurt David Leisure. That is when you've gone too far.
In the process of all this that the angels are throwing at him, Eric is somehow composed enough to kind of agree with them and be like, it's not too late for me, is it? Not too late. And they're like, no, God has a plan for you, Eric.
But as a magician, it probably is because you ruined your network special.
Well, apparently, though, they could exist in the United States without ever knowing the other one was alive. So I think he could just move to a different part of the country and they wouldn't even, it wouldn't be a problem.
That's true.
People couldn't get information back then.
Upon Monica telling him it's that God does have a plan for him and loves him very much, we've got one more angel reveal, and that's Tess, who says amen and is shown standing next to Pete. So apparently, all the while, she grabbed Pete from the pool hall place and brought him straight to the junkyard, and they're all assembled together now. The brothers get a chance to reunite as the angels stand all around watching, and the snow falls and everyone, and all is well.
This is kind of like the ending of our Christmas Father Knows Best.
It's just so hastily thrown together, and honestly, not all is not exactly well, because Eric really just cries the entire time that he's talking to Pete, and Pete can't say much. We're out of time in the episode, so Pete doesn't have time to say much other than, Dad told me you were dead. And then they hug, and Eric cries a whole bunch.
The end.
Basically.
Presumably, he's going to need years of therapy.
It's not over, but the episode has to be. They sense, I think, this was a lot. So they're like, we got to end this on a light note. Let's have Tess chide Celeste for not bringing back the dog and also handling this case not the way they want it done. So she's like, we're going to have a little talk about the rules.
I'm going to have to put this on your permanent record.
It's our go-to comedy move. I have Tess yell at someone.
And then the episode ends on a strange note where she's like, and what'd you do with my dog? And Celeste doesn't answer. And the episode's over.
They're kind of frightening.
Van mentioned this earlier. You could not have possibly drawn that up and been like, this is where this episode's going to end.
What a left turn into whatever that was.
And yet, this is so much more linear and logical than what we'll see next week.
Yeah, most definitely.
Strangely true. Even a Christian would not be able to defend that ending because it was so batshit. It was so poorly done, though. It's like it just didn't even have the elements of what could make Christianity good in any of that. So I just don't see how even a Christian could say I like that. But we all enjoyed Eric doing his magician thing. It just kind of fell apart at the end and turned into whatever this was.
I would like to say this about Touched by an Angel. It has a certain Walker Texas Ranger quality of, are you guys serious?
We watch Christian movies because they're absurd and funny. I think this show is just
Sometimes they are weirdly affecting, like 1 out of every 100.
Yeah. But this show is that in a microcosm. So I really like it from the fact that we'd be watching a movie with this shit in it anyway. And then here we have a show with 211 episodes of the same dumb shit. It's great.
And one big positive mark from this episode that I think more shows could learn from, and I know that sounds weird, David Leisure's in it.
Yeah, that is a good call. Let's see if this was a good call as we read one last review here from Rick Thomas. We've got 2, but I want you guys to pick which one I read. They're both 3-star reviews.
Okay.
I'll give you the title of the reviews. We have Fairly Average Show, and then we
He's
have
gonna hate that.
Lots More Dancing Than Magic. Which would you like to hear?
Oh, it's so tough. I would personally say the Average Show one.
Yeah, I think
You
so.
have that?
Too.
All right,
That
let's do
seems
that.
like perfectly designed to get under his skin.
Well, that's John S., 3-star Average Show. He says, the magic/illusions were fairly average and predictable. Too much of the dancers. And by the way, that was in the other question, the whole dancer thing.
I'm thinking maybe there's too much dancing in the show.
Well, you'll find
I
out.
gotta see the dancing. Is it magical?
Sure. Best part was his personality and the way he related to the audience.
Oh, that's nice.
That's sweet.
Well, he says. Rick Thomas says, this type of review always seems to make me scratch my head.
Who could like me?
There is dancing in the show because variety is the spice of life. However, I also get to personally time the segments. There is 7 minutes of dancing in a 2-hour show. The dancing also pertains directly to the Mansion of Dreams. It is stunning and elegant, performed by amazing dancers from across the world. They'll love to hear this. Regarding the magic, I tried. I am humbly honored to have received the highest awards in magic, and even a key to the city of Las Vegas.
Whoa.
It too for the finest magic worldwide. I am thrilled to be a part of the entertainment industry and have the opportunity every day to give you everything I've got to provide an evening of happiness to others. It appears someone forced you to be there. My very best
Wow.
wishes always. And by the way, I think that's exactly what he said in a different review at the end there. So I think he's copy-pasting a little.
He might be, or maybe he has some beats he likes to return to. The only reasons he can think of as to why someone might not give him 5 stars and say he's the best magician they've ever seen. Which is, I think, the only thing he would accept, by the way. Because that was a pretty nice review.
In the other one, when he responds to the review, he mentions, I am also thrilled that my inspirational stories are now a podcast across all podcasting platforms, and I am now charted on Apple Podcast at 120 in arts among thousands in just a month.
Is he coming for us? He has his own podcast?
Might be. He says, epic, says the New York Times.
Whoa.
He's actually putting other reviews in this.
Rick Thomas.
Rick
We gotta go
Thomas.
watch him.
Maybe we can get him to be a guest. We're going to have to handle with kid gloves, though.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
he's a professional podcaster now, so he's got mic presence.
You know what I'll say? I bet you he is every bit the podcaster that I am the magician.
I know exactly what you mean.
Rick Thomas. Magic, magic, magic.
Rick Thomas aside, you've made it this whole way in the episode, and we've been talking about Touched by an Angel for a really long time. You must have enjoyed yourself. You must have enjoyed us. And you're wondering, man, I want more of these Angel Boob Tube Boys. Where do we find them? Everywhere. We have our own website. It's bootuinc.com. We've got lots of stuff on there, stuff about us. We've written some stuff on there. Van puts some GIFs on there from time to time. We've just played around with all sorts of different formats, and you can find that there. We also have a Discord server. The link is on the website if you want to join there and chat with us. We would love to have you, and we will communicate with you with open arms.
Arms wide open.
What else do we have? We're on YouTube.
That was Creed.
Yeah, I walked right through that one. So we're on YouTube. It's also Bootu Inc.
Oh, there's really big news.
What's that?
I have a friend on Goodreads.
Who's that?
Oh,
It's Spencer. Spencer has a Goodreads now.
Yeah, I decided I needed to get on that. And
I didn't.
the username for me, I'm in Discord in this as well. I'm Golden Hat Mick, but you can just find me through Loud Guitar Brian on there. You can find either one of us,
Yeah.
connect with us and see what we're reading. Currently, I'm reading Power and Thrones about the medieval time period by Dan Thomas. And let me just say, that Charlemagne guy, he liked to conduct all his affairs in the bath,
Oh, shit.
just so you know.
I'm reading Easy Riders Raging Bulls by Peter Biskind about 70s Hollywood, and let me tell you, there's stuff people do in bathtubs there too,
Conduct their affairs.
like Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, so we're all over the place. Give us a shout out on the internet. We'll be happy to hear from you.
Oh, and you know what else? You can also find me on Letterboxd at Loud Guitar Brian, and I have formed a list on there called Pizza Party, and it's all the bad movies the three of us have watched together. So if anyone listening wants to know what those are, that's where to do that.
There's also a Patreon site where you can have bonus content. You have the opportunity to donate to our cause, our podcasting cause, if you want to, but the content is free.
And aren't the best things in life free? Because across the expanses of time, space, memory, faith, and courage lie nothing but what we have in our solemn hearts. And that is why, for my next illusion, I will make the podcast disappear.
Every time I tell you I'll walk with you. Believe me, I'll walk with you.